Welcome to Computer Arch, the USS Merlin's video podcast where we chat with Trek creators. I'm Commodore Philip Gilfus, commanding officer of the USS Merlin, and I'm honored to be joined by Sam of Power 543. Sam, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's funny on track yards. I'm a Commander Cockings, so I feel super outranked right now. Yeah, hi, happy to be here.
Well, you have many more ships behind you than I ever have to deal with, so you're the true admiral here.
Oh,
Uh,
I think what 12 years on track yards, so it's been a bit. I think I've earned a couple of pips. Yeah.
with that, let's go into your Star Trek origins. So when in Sam's life did it all begin? Did the lightning strike or the starship dock or whatever it was that finally had you discover Star Trek?
I don't know. So I've been told the brief version when I was 3, my dad put on Corbomite Maneuver, and I liked it, and that's it. And that might sound like an odd beginning, but I'm the sort of person where I don't really have memories before 7 or 8, really. So for me, Trek has always been a thing. All the Treks have always been a thing. So it just has been there. There's never been a world without Trek. And because of that, I think I take a lot of the morals just as part of my core being. Because in my world, people are always equal. Have you seen Star Trek? You know, there's never a starting moment. There's a case of always. In fact, Stargate was a show that kind of grabbed me in my teen years that, when I found it and we watched it. And then Star Trek came back on TV, obviously, in Trek Yards and such. So, um, other shows I've found, but Star Trek was just always there. Especially as dads who had model kits and props and costumes oh yeah, of course we have triples in the house. What do you mean? Of who doesn't? Always been there.
Do you remember, or was there a particular evolution? Like, was it just TOS and then TNG and then all Voyager and DS9 meshed together, or was there a particular journey that you went on of forward and backward before you finally got contemporary?
Yeah, a good question. And it's funny, the Mandela effect, perception, and is such a thing. So, and my dad never liked DS9, so we never really saw DS9 in the house. So I knew it existed, but and especially obviously back then, un, un, unless you
This is
bought
an
the
only
20,
Starship household.
well, thank you. Unless you bought the £25 VHSs, 35, £40 of a thing you don't really like, there's no repeats really. So we just didn't catch it. So for me, TOS is always their default. Never thought about it. TNG, there's a lot of it, and we saw bits of it. The classics, yes, but I hadn't actually seen entire Trek review series, 2 episodes ever. I'd seen clips, but to see them for the first time was like, I'm watching new TNG in 2024, and it was great, right? That was surreal. Voyager is the only one I remember watching live, but not really because I was too. Again, my memories don't really start at a certain point. I know my parents never watched the finale because they were sad it ended. So I remember vaguely watching a couple of those episodes, not like truly sat down memories. But Enterprise, I remember watching as being okay. And that was a funny old time in England because heyday of sci-fi, Star Trek Enterprise, Battlestar Galactica, Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and something else that was less famous, and then Universe. And for about 3 years, we had this game. Well, I had this game because my parents stopped watching Enterprise. I had this game. What was better this week? BSG, Stargate, or Star Trek? And I'll spoil it. It was never Star Trek,
Mm-hmm.
which was sad. But so when I watched Enterprise, it was a more of a well, of course you watch Star Trek, but it was never the best of those shows. So you could see how the evolution of Trek was getting like this, and other shows was like these are just better. And I will stand by that. Atlantis and BSG are just fundamentally better shows, but there was other shows as well. So there you go.
Yeah, no, nothing wrong with that. Yeah, no, and it's an interesting journey, especially, and obviously we'll get into it, but where you're sort of intermeshing so much Trek in your productions, it's sort of interesting to see,
Yeah.
where it all is, and how
Mm-hmm.
is it just, I mean, we'll get into how ideas come in later, but just like, as you work your way through productions, is it just all mixing in there, or are you doing a rewatch that then like gets it there, or
Well, it helps that in my head, and this is very much like Doug Drexler has said on our show, on Track Yards, that for me, Star Trek, it's so there, it's so fleshed out, and the people from TMP to the end of Enterprise really cared about the internal continuity and matching and referencing and respecting. That for me, when I create, I've probably created more new Trek media than most people out there. And I've certainly done more years of it than a lot of people, etc., etc. So for me, Star Trek, you have to treat it like a historical record. It's not a TV show; it's a historical record. So, and to my annoyance, in many a time, if I want to do a story here because of reasons, well, I need this shuttle or this prop. I can't use the other one. I have to either get, invest, or buy or whatever the proper one, because for me, those things matter. It's a historical piece, and so getting it right is important. So I just treat it as a history, and then it all kind of fits together, just the years that pass. If that makes sense.
Now for Hollow Pursuits, where we're going to get into actually the production of what you do. And you've mentioned Trek Yards, but sort of concentrate. And you can talk about whatever you want. You're the guest, but concentrating on Power 543. How? And I'm sure that it never happens the same way, but generally
Mm.
speaking, how does it go from idea to YouTube video? Now I'm sure that's an essay, so I know I'm asking you to consolidate probably a lot. So the very short version, but like, you know, for someone who's watching this, going like,
Yep.
man, I love what they do, and maybe I want to do my own version, but how's the magic happen?
And it's funny because each film would be a different answer,
Hmm.
and each film we could do stories and behind the scenes. Every single one is a journey. I would like your reaction to the statement because it might be an interesting thing to hear your reaction as interviewer. So I've released, let's say, 44 films. It's either 43, 44, 45. If I said about half of them were accidents, would you believe me? And what would you say?
Well,
Accidents.
I mean, I as the way Trek works in my clouded head, which nobody should ever look into. I mean, I could see where you're working on something, and then it takes you another direction, and especially with your extended universe, however you want to call it. I mean, with the characters and plot lines and everything. I mean, and I'm only still a newer watcher, not no new watcher, but newer watcher. There's still, how can I get this character maybe to go into this timeline? And oh man, we really like this one, but they're sort of stuck in the 24th century. How could we get them to TOS? Or and then you're always influenced. I mean, this is my opinion. You've always been influenced by current events, and as much as like, well, Prodigy's in trouble, man, we should do something about. And so I'm sure that took you in places you never thought. If you had planned your year out, that was probably may or may not have been on your year. So I can certainly see where the you never know where it'll take you.
Because it's, I don't think, if you wrote the history of this and compared to other fan film groups, it just sounds ridiculous. Because most fan films, to give perspective, is some person has an idea, they film it with some friends, maybe as someone who knows how to use a camera, maybe outsource a couple of things they can't do, and they make one film ever, one film every year, maybe twice a year if they're simple. I release between 6 and 9 films a year, all of which are more elaborate than many of them. Not all of them, but obviously, if you spent 3 years on one film, it's going to be more elaborate than mine. And I don't think most people would think that film took 5 days to make
Hmm.
because of just how I've structured it. So it's absurd, and I've put myself in this position, and it's going quite well, but also, oh damn. So yeah, I think of the last 17 films, 3 have been intentional. So it's amazing to go back to a quote unquote old catalogue of stuff that was intended to be released. Like, I can finally get back to this one. And it's funny because I've filmed stuff. We had such an investment a year and a half where I did so much filming. We were filming almost twice a month at a certain point, single days or double day shoot. So we were doing so much content, hundreds of gigabytes, dozens of terabytes, etc. Because the characters were so alive and stories came up and wanted to do this and that. But a lot of them are, you know, they know that this event happened in this person's life and they refer to it here. So we can't release anything here until this comes out. So now all these films are kind of locked from release, which is fine, but that's the level of wow, we've done so much. But then we have these great plans, and so yeah, Prodigy gets cancelled. And I know the team at Prodigy, I have personal ties to them. And I start making a save, I look at TOS, it's a save by letter writing campaign, and how Prodigy was cancelled was absolutely ridiculous. And the fact is, we got it back, and a lot of shows the power of the fandom. And I thought, well, what would a fan film mean if that got 30,000 views and it's a number, it's a statistic, right? There's interest. And so I for that particular film, I spent 6.5 days working every hour of the day. I had 1 hour allocated to eat food that day. And I woke up at 12 lunchtime every day and went to sleep in the 6 a.m. every day. I saw dawn every single day at week. I couldn't go to sleep until I saw rendering overnight. I got it all filmed, released in 6.5 days, went viral, shared by the Hagemans, the showrunners of Prodigy. And I was told informally, and I says I say this anecdote, in what context, don't know, in what detail, don't know, that I've been told that my film was mentioned in the room with Netflix in the conversation. It might have been as a little thing on a PowerPoint, but it was mentioned, and that's the main thing, right? It helped. So that was out of nowhere a film was made, right? But then I made a bigger thing really to support them to get the season 2, which we ended up getting. Load X was cancelled, same thing. That one I didn't quite burn myself out on. Picard, Prodigy, there's a reason why things happen, or I'm occasionally commissioned to make a film by a fan, which helps the channel. So again, that just comes to the front of the queue, helps fund other things, whatever. So a lot of the stuff is just because, and when the Kickstarter, which I was trying to make for several years, so the stress and pressure of it, the bar was kept rising of what I needed to raise as I was keep going. So for that one, I went above and beyond and released many, I think 4 films in the 70 days, which is absurd. But I had Kudzai coming for something else. I said, let's just film a new film and I'll release it the last day of the campaign, because a last day push film might get reaction. It did. It was lovely. So that was another film I wrote, produced, edited right at the end. And because I felt it was, this is me being non-normal, right? Make one fan film a year if you're lucky. That's the norm. I felt I was going to launch my Indiegogo in October, and I had all my prepped films ready to go, kind of thing. But I had to push it back until sort of February. I said, well, I can't ask for lots and lots of money and have a 6-month delay of films. Well, Marcus is here in 2 weeks. Let me write another film for him to shoot then, to edit, to release in December. So, there's a reason for every film, and then it pushes the ones you planned back. And so when you say, where's the idea come from? If I've been told to myself, because I'm stupid, okay, I need to film a film on Thursday, it's Wednesday, and it needs to do this for the character, this for the timeline. He said, challenge the actor here. I've got these sets I haven't used before. This I could finish. I need to film it in 1 session. I need to edit it in 3 sessions. I make it interesting. And you know what? Insane creative constrictions sometimes make magic. And I was very pleased with that last film that was released because you can't tell it was made in 3 days. It's so the charm is so real, and it's I don't know how I've got lightning in a bottle so many times. It's going to run out at some point, I'm sure, but I'm very pleased with my emergency films, like random films, how well they've turned out. Yeah, there you go.
Now, is there a corkboard like right to the left with a bunch of ribbons and characters, or is there some massive Excel spreadsheet? Like how are you keeping the oh no, that RAM. Okay.
It's so fun. Okay, I'll give it a little. Okay, I'll reveal one little thing. So Emma Thorne plays Laura Reed in the shorts. We've done several things with her, and I won't give too many spoilers because there's big spoilers, as you can imagine, with her arc. And there was a point in the film when she mentioned a brother, which is Eric, who mentioned it earlier films, and then we have this whole scene about siblings. And then after we shot it, we turned ourselves and said, "Oh no, we said you had sisters. We just erased your sisters from the universe. So now I have to edit out the different." It was an offhand mention in another film, but it was a thing. It wasn't a big thing. So now, so small things we can forget because they're quite dense. I'm trying to forget names of films. I've done so many, but for the most part, it's in my head. I've got a timeline for Nim and Marcus because they are really like year specific, and cramming stuff in is often difficult. Or what year hasn't been explored, kind of thing, where you can place stuff. But for the most part, it's in my brain. I don't know. I've got a good brain like that.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, and then that's how us. I mean, now you're more than a fan; you're a producer, but that's how sort of Star Trek fans work. Like,
Yeah.
we just watch something and like, wait, that's not right. Now, of course, you're much more deeper into it than just a fan. And so, and again, I appreciate that every episode may be a snowflake, and that it looks
Yep.
they're all different. But generally speaking, so there's an idea, boom, however it comes, so then what happens? Is it? Well, I won't even try to attempt to imagine. So what happens after the idea?
I'll give you 2 examples. There's a couple of ideas I've had out of the blue, as in like the idea came first, not the necessity for a film came first. One particular one was a whale probe film, which is one of our larger sort of 40-minute films, and you can wonder why they're pushed back because they're going to be like 6 to 8 months to make, maybe 5 if I'm rushing. You know what I mean? They're you get 2 films a year, bam, but they're long films,
Yes.
right? And that one, I had the idea, and for whatever reason, it all structured in my brain, start to finish. I started writing it. I wrote all, let's say, 37 pages in one sitting, which is not normal, but that just existed out of me. And because I liked thinking character voices, um, even if I'm doing like a body swap, I just write them like the other person because that's, everyone's got a character voice, it's quite distinct. So for that particular film, I knew what they'd say. Like I knew the plot, but I didn't know the scenes. And so me writing it that quickly, it was just them talking to each other, and it wrote the film around how I thought they'd react. Um, I'll give you a mild spoiler, but it's interesting. There's a bit in that when they almost mutiny, and I said to the people involved in the film, I said, "Okay, I'm about to hit this scene. This is what I think might happen. I don't know what's going to happen yet." So I started writing. I said, "I don't know how far this character is going to go until I write the interplay, because how the other character reacts to them if they're going to climb the ledge or go off the ledge." And I won't say what happened, but the characters decided in the scene how far it went, and that's how the rest of the film. So that's how organic it can be. Now, I say that was a really extreme example, right? That was an idea came first, bam, did it. I've had other films where one particular film, once actually come out, is Prologue to Unification, which was my reaction to the Unification film by Otoy, the CG Kirk, and amazing, and Sam Witwer, what a nice lad. And that film, that I want to make a reaction film because that was going viral, and I respect those guys. I was like, I need to send a love letter back, right? And so I started working on that. And also because I was doing our Trek Yards review of it, and the director, the cinematographer, the actor, and the producer all showed up in our chat to say thank you for reviewing it and
Oh,
talk
wow.
to us. So I was like, oh damn, they know me. They'll appreciate it. So I made the film. And that film was like, right, it's let's say Friday. I need to start working on this. I don't know what the story is. I just know I have to get your to Kirk. So I started doing CGI, and as I was doing each scene, I was working at what was happening. So that was a case of I was literally writing it as I was building it because I had the time to take to render it was so intense that if this takes 7 hours, I've got to start it now and then write it. So that was like, what can I do? And then writing it. Again, another extreme example, but that ended up working quite well. My own instincts as a director kind of take over because I know what feels wrong. Or if it feels wrong, it's there on purpose. Like you're meant to feel uncertain or whatever. A recent film, someone complained this scene isn't explained properly. I said, yeah, because that's from their perspective. You're meant to feel until the twist. You're not meant to know what's happening. That's the point of the scene. That's why it feels weird. Oh wait,
Hmm.
um, so yeah, often it'll be I just know what the character's going to say. Sometimes it's definitely more of a slug, harder to go through, especially if I'm tired. I've got to film. I've got to write it by Friday. I can sense it's not as strong as others because I've released 45 films. I've written at least 130 of various sizes. So I know my best work, in my opinion. I know ones that haven't quite excelled. So I'm like, this isn't working properly, but there's a reason for the film. Like I need it's a fan, but who needs? But this is allocated to help explain why this character has a problem with this character. And I'm also using the excuse to show this ship. So I need to finish it. But there's a reason it's not quite working as good as it could, but I'll make it work. And then the acting performance helps elevate it. But it does vary. And necessity is causing such fun stuff, you know.
And as someone who's wearing so many hats, because I'm thinking, and
Too
again,
many.
correct me if I'm wrong, so idea, so now you're the writer, but you're also the producer. And so when you're writing, because of no, this is my word, you can correct me, of your troop of 543ers, so you're writing your script, is your producer going like, and I know this is the minutia, but this is sort of, I mean, again, for people who are interested in doing this, of like, well, I don't know if that person's on holiday for 2 weeks, can I write them in, wait, do I know they'll be available, oh, can I include this character, is that going in, are you having to like, because you, I assume, know your folks, of like, well, I can't write a script about them, so so is it the idea and then versus availability, or is it just you're just right and there's a pile, and then when people are available, you pull that one out of the pile?
Definitely not that. Definitely not
Okay.
that. I had a fan come to me once and say, I want to commission a film. Awesome. Because I've basically got the entire production engine, right? And they said, okay, it's basically a horror, which is kind of fun in itself, haunted house on a Galaxy class. and I want to use Marcus and Emma, and they come from, let's say, Enterprise. I was like, okay, well, first of all, when is it set? This year. Oh, Marcus isn't that rank. Oh, okay. And neither on the Enterprise. Oh, okay. And she's not that division. Oh, okay. So they just liked the people and they threw them in, but none of it made sense. So I'm
Mhm.
even though okay, so when I start a film like a necessity film there's two things I try and drive any film is the what is the visual that sells it that makes Trek fans happy, right? In a recent film, I wanted to see a Defiant versus a Galaxy and see those two. That was the visual that fans could see for the first time ever, and as a fan, that's cool. But the film is not relying on that to sell it. Then the character work is what am I trying to do? Character work, both that you as the audience know and that you don't know, but I know as a writer and the actors know that we can set for future films. Because my entire brand is such that when I retire, let's say in 150 years, whatever, you can go back and watch the films in character chronological order, and you actually watch films being made 3, 4, 5, 2 years apart, and it should flow because we know we've acted a lot of stuff out of order, and so they've got to be true to how they feel at the time. Sometimes it means you have to be careful wording to not spoil. And there's a couple of characters I'm sort of slightly tricking the audience by not saying something, but to preserve the quality of the overall story. But they'll say stuff that you have no idea what's happening. But in 2 years, everything I've said is already filmed story that they're actually referencing, and it's like, oh my, but that's how he shot it, right? That's how he designed it. So it's very much character and a visual that sells it. So I will not pull characters that don't make sense. I'll actively really tailor stuff, and every story, almost without question, needs the character, to be challenged as an actor, sorry, and then for them to grow or expand or develop something else because they're character pieces. I don't really want to do these giant epic space battle scenes with the 5 bridge crew. And that's Dave, the bridge officer 2. What's his character story? He's Dave, bridge officer 2. He says 20 lines. He's just Dave. There's nothing there. I'd rather have these intimate stories of Nim having a really bad day in the Hollow Suite, doing a time travel story about Romulan invasion of Arax 4, and we learn about her cousin who commits suicide, and that links to a story from 5 years in the future. Like, that to me is more interesting, and it's one person in one room, but you make it interesting in other ways versus this big who cares production. And I love other fan films, but with character first, that's important, and so things will only work in certain ways. And also, I will actually literally change the dates of films based on if it makes sense or not,
Yeah.
because of course I need this narrative. Well, it needs to be in the Dominion War because of this for the characters. So I will move things up and down if it makes sense, of course. And sometimes I just won't do that plot line, but it has to fit, or it has to forward think or pre-think or whatever. Like, it's crazy to do the Prodigy episodic content because it starts in the Picard era. That was a necessity because everyone loved Picard season 3. To have a storyline that starts ahead of everything, they've lived everything, and then being alive as a spoiler, their rank as a spoiler, their relationship as a spoiler. It's like, how do you write that and yet be true to the moment? Very difficult, but also fun because again, you'll see it makes more sense than you realize. That was difficult though, because going forward is like, well, that's already happened to them. Well, yeah, but it's an anthology show, so I can go back and show past things, and yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was watch. I know, good lordy. If I don't have the episode written down, I'm not gonna remember it. But the one with you, in several timelines, and I was like watching it, and I'm like,
Yes.
the sooner I watch, I'm Ensign. You. I'm sorry, and this is nothing against you. Bad with character names. I can't even tell you every
Davis.
character's name in Starfleet
Name
Academy, and
Major
I love
Davis
that
and
show.
Stargate.
Okay, yeah. I'm always like the Betazoid girl. But anyway, so yes, Ensign Davis. I'm watching you, and I'm like, I've been watching your films. I'm like, no offense. I'm like, Sam does not look like that. And I'm like, oh, but the more I look, I'm like, oh, that is a great. And I don't know what you're actually using, but filter to make him
DH.
look like
Yeah.
baby faced Ensign Davis. And then when because that's the first character you see, you're like, well, okay, maybe I'm just seeing something weird.
Yep.
Maybe I clicked on the wrong video and it's just like one of the first ones or something. And then when you see all the other ones, obviously you get
Yep.
sort of the oldest one first, and then you get the in betweens. But it was just very interesting to see that sort of mixture
And
with just one character.
that was a really fun one. I mean, challenging as hell. So you're referring to a film where I play 5 roles in the film as 5 or 6 timelines, where youngest me meets oldest me, and then everything in between. Each one's a different shuttle, different part of their life. I do de-aging on the youngest, up-aging on the oldest. And because I happened to get my haircut, I was able to get that. So I actually had different haircuts between as well. So I planned that. So all five actually look and feel different. And filming it was a real fun nightmare because there's no one to play against. But I had a very distinct feeling of who each was. So I played them as true as I could. And I think when you watch it, it's surprising how different I all feel. Young me is not old me, is not mid me. I'm really proud of myself there because it can't come together until the edit. And that's a funny film because that was literally written because the Prodigy multi-episode content, I can't call it series, but I really want to, but I can't. That was being made, and I knew that we skipped a whole lot of plot points you guys hadn't seen yet. So I wrote that film exclusively as a prequel setup story that no one in the audience will know is a prequel setup story because I hadn't announced Prodigy yet. But when you watch it, I'm setting up like 5 or 6 elements from Prodigy, but you don't know yet. And you still can't know yet because it hasn't come out fully. But I was like, I need, and then and having the layers of that was so interesting to interweave what I knew was real, but wasn't. That was a really, really surreal one to make. And Alexa came at the end, which was very nice of her. Yeah, man. There's so many films. I'm gonna say probably 20 unreleased films where a character is de-aged for the entire film as just a part of it because they have to be in their 20s or 30s and they are not.
Nice.
It's a lot of time. It's a lot of work.
So, and I guess to help sort of you think about it. So I'm just thinking about your films that it's not because you have to. I mean, not I have to. I mean, like it's not an external event. It's not a fundraising. This is like a purposeful video. So for just those. So you got the script and you're going to do it.
Yes.
What's next?
Send to the actor. They either have time to read it or not. Occasionally they'll read them on the train up. Life.
Yeah.
But they've got to the point where they can trust me. I have an unwritten rule that I don't let a bad performance sort of slide. I will keep going to get good performance, but I've kind of tailored them not to the people. They're not playing themselves. That's a distinction, but to how I know they can act. So it's in their range, or I'm pushing them out of their range, but I know they can do it. I've been proven right a lot of times. So I'll send them the script. I'll get some thoughts. I rarely have things they want to change, but I'll have a little bit of, Nim says, Keely wouldn't say that. And a few things we might tweak, but it's normally like the tiniest things, or Nick will change a few words to be more Scottish or less Scottish. Right. That's very, very small things. Because I really do try and get them ready when you send them. Often, if I've got more time, I'll start doing the visual effects. Sort of, that's how I used to do it before the emergency films came out. I would do like 2 hours a night of just the space effects, just kind of just start building them and rendering them so that when I get to the edit, that's not. And now 2 weeks work. I'm doing 2 hours a night. It builds up the thing. If I've got more time, even more time, I'll do previs where I'll take the CG sets I already have, which now is this pantheon of 5 years of thousands of hours of work from me and my amazing team, like I adore Adrian and Nick and Matt. Adrian and Nick, you guys are the best. I will put a real sized person and I'll shrink the Threma in the scene. And I know in my mind's eye where I want them, but it doesn't mean it works because what you think works doesn't necessarily work. I have a good idea, but so I'll put them in the scene, the CGI scene. I'll set the camera up and I'll do what I want with that. I'll set focus. I'll tweak it how I want this light in just to kind of get a bit of extra glare, whatever. Render those out. I'll have those to go. But if it's an emergency film or the set's not done yet, and I'll set 7 out of 10 times, I will just picture the set. You know how in Mandalorian you can have like a phone and you can see the set digitally via that, like a low res version. My actors will often say, "Are you looking at the set right now?" So I'll stand there and in behind the camera in front of them, and they can see my eyes like not glaze over, but become looking at them on the green screen. But I'm seeing the set and I'm shifting it in my eye, and I'm moving the camera exactly because I know these sets so well, both from a digital perspective, also from the show. So I'll say to them, no, you can't shoot there because the bulkhead's there. Like, it's a bookshelf. No, it's a bulkhead.
You're walking through the wall. No,
yeah, literally. That has happened various times, and it's the most stupid thing. But I know these sets. I'm sometimes wrong, of course, but I'll tweak. And then we just shoot it. We just shoot it. Everyone's very different amount of time to get ready. Girls, guys, beards, no beards. It all takes time. We shoot, and it costs to get everyone down. We because US people, I speak to you right now, I'll just spend 3 hours to go to the cinema and then 3 hours back. That was a normal thing I do sometimes. I'll just travel 8 hours to my dad for a day trip. In England, because we've got a different thing, and you have a highway that 7 hours could be just button go. For us, it's all small roads, so 2 hours of us driving is 2 hours of actually driving a lot of the time. So for us, going an hour and a half is away, and then back. So 3 hours of your day is like that's the difference between being tired and not tired in the day. And anything like above two is like, well, I'm not. Oh, really, I can't do that in a day and still do a day's work. It's too tiring. So all of our cast are an hour and a half away, depending. And if they've got to get here at 10, that means leave at 8:30, which means go up at 7, and then we expect a 10-hour day. It's not. It is practical, but it's not really practical for best result. So we all like most of the time, if it's a real day of shooting, not just like a half day, we'll pay for them to get a hotel the night before. So they're traveling the night before. Doesn't matter if they come in at 12 midnight, they're here, then they can be here at 10 without the travel. Go from 10 until 5, 6, 7. We, for the most part, stay until it's done because we know that getting the haircut, all that stuff together, we've got an amazing cast. And we'll stay an hour to get this done. It's fine. We're all tired. We'll wait, right? So they'll often leave at 6, 7, 8. Hour and a half back, they're back at midnight. It's a very long day. And I'm working the entire day, right? I'm doing everything. So it's very, very tiring for me. But they'll stay. That's why budget's important. Because yes, we could bring them in at 3 and then leave at 6. But now, is it fair to them to travel 3.5, 4 hours? And what if travel's bad? You want to make it worth it. That's why I often, and that's where emergency films come in as well. If I know, and I say if all goes well, if I know if all goes well, this film should take 3 hours to shoot with this bit. We've just spent, let's say, $350 to get them here, all in, right? Or 250, right? Travel and whatever, like all in. That's a lot of money that we have to raise. So even though 3 hours, we could send them home early, but the money's spent, right? So I'll say, hotels vary, right? Can't control that, whatever. So I'll say, I'll write another film to shoot the second half of the day. So the budget spent is the same, but we've achieved double as much. Now I've lost my time, my effort, my energy, but now the fans, you guys, get additional film. And then the problem is, I have one actor, what 3 hours, this, you know what I mean? Then that comes in. But then, oh no, Nimtex now do makeup. That's that version of her I have to use again. What can I do now? What is the thing I've not want, I try and make the budget go as far as possible because we do spend, things cost, and it's so amazing we got the money raised, but that will only go so far because quality costs. And it's not even like it's, we're not hiring, Tim Russ for $4,000 for a day, right? We're getting a lot done on the budget, but we don't want to skimp. We don't want to have people be too tired to work. So we try and really stretch that. And it's very tiring, but we really stretch that budget. So if you're on the Kickstarter to GoFundMe and you're donating money, it's really going to go a long way.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know I'm fast forwarding, but you tell me what I'm skipping. So, films in the can. I know that's not actually how it works, but anyway, films in the can. You're doing your visual effects work sort of in parallel, or you tell me. And so, once the actor's done, or they've done their bit, and I mean now it's obviously editing, parallel visual effects, and then editing visual effects with the acting, and so what is there anything, I mean, I know again we're fast forwarding, but is there anything about that process that's really is important to detail specifically?
Yeah, so you start editing. I have a sense of if we stop that particular take, that scene, that's probably the last take is the one I'm going to use. Not every time. Often the first one I'll use is more natural, but we'll often refine it down, especially in documentaries which we love doing, because a documentary you get to sit down, read the order cue. I ensure to give you
trademark Memory Alpha documentary. So.
Yes, our very special memory documentary. And because we really do, it's quite intense to try and get some scenes really honed. There's an obvious best take, right? Those are really fun because the actor gets to be the character for like an hour. We've had 12-minute takes before where they're just able to just read 12 minutes of being the character. And can you imagine the freedom as an actor just to be the character for that level of time and just flow? And it's so remarkable to see, let's say, Nim read very smart dialogue and act it well. Like she's Keely, just living it. Oh, not what you asked. So you get all the footage into the edit. You go through everything. I pick out the worst stuff because instantly that's wrong. Boom, boom. I have everything in parallel, so I have the two shot and then the close up both on the same frame, so I can see them both. They're all lined up. If I'm doing a de-age, I'll do a de-age process first, have that as a third line. So I have the face of the de-ages because that all has to be right at the start. So it's all lined up. I'll take out all the worst bits, leaving just the mid bits. I'll then pick the best bits, again, narrowing that down. And I'll start assembling, just raw, all the stuff. And it goes from being like, da da da, da da da, and now you've got the da da da, now you've got the interplay, but you're not, most time actors don't act together because of budget, right? It's just more, I'm trying to stretch it. It's like I could shoot one film for $900 if we get everyone together, or one film for $500 and not get them together. It would be fine if I was getting thousands of dollars a month, but $400 is another film basically. So we do it that way for efficiency, right? Anyway, so I started to put it together. VFX, because I'm the writer, producer, editor, director, and VFX supervisor, I can go from previs to final and approve it myself, if that makes sense, even before I edit. So I'll often have just finals, at least maybe not refined, maybe there's a phaser missing, but I can have pretty much everything assembled visual effects wise up to a certain point. Put the timeline, start editing. I'll get the full base edit done first and feel a flow. But then what I find, music is so darn key because until you replace the green and put the music in, it's just people in rooms talking. That's all it is. So when you start to edit the music, you find the best track, you find a flow. Now you're creating an emotion to go along with the audible. It can hit harder if Marcus is saying something dramatic and the music is stirring. And now the scene works a lot better. So you music comp the whole thing, and that's where it locks. Because until the music's locked, the emotions are locked, it's not locked. And that will, I'll wait until there's a version of every VFX shot before I do that. That's all in there. Okay, now I'm locked. Now the hard work begins.
Yeah, it was all easy before then.
Yeah. Then I'll turn all the visual effect, all the green screen into an After Effects comp, so the VFX suite. I'll then break it down into all the sub people, so I can then do overarching edits. Hopefully, I've got more efficient as I've gone because I've had to be because I'm doing more quicker. So I've really refined this process. I'll then make a still frame of every single green screen plate. I'll take that into my or I'll use that as reference to line up the camera because if I've got previs, I've got an angle I based it on, but we never match it because you can't really. So I'll reline up the CG person to the real person. I'll then add fake lighting for where we actually lit the actor because it might be just we couldn't move the light in time. So I'll re-add that so that now the set's being lit by just a little bit of fake lighting, which is really there because now I've lit the actor. I'll then render a test plate, put it in the comp, see does it work? Yes, no. If the planning's been planned, it works in 2 or 3 tries. Then I'll render that out in 4K, ultra high res, which takes about 9 to 12 minutes per frame. So I'll then start the second one. I'll load a new version, start the second one, that's going. Then I'll do this throughout. So I'm doing 2. I have to multitask. I've got too much to do. So I'm always doing 2 if I can, maybe not 3, but 2. And slowly fill the timeline. After that process is done, then I can actually key it all, which is another process because you've got to refine it. And every shot's different and lighting's different. Once that's done, you set it for the entire timeline and then you integrate it with every other little bit. You have to show how it would look in final colors as well. So you do that, but it slows it down. So you do it like once every time, start, end. Then I render the green screen shots as flat images because then I'm telling the computer to write this hard processing, do it now without any extras. And in still frames, if it crashes or breaks, I'm only losing past a certain point. If you're under a video file and you lose it 8 hours in, you waste 8 hours. If you're doing it and you're 400 frames in of 2000, okay, you've got 400 frames. So that I'll do. And that will take between 6 to 12 hours because I'm using 4K native footage, 1080p, full res, go. Then I'll reload that in after the 8 hours per scene or per actor, mostly per scene. Then I'll put the top colors on to kind of balance it, add the flare, the glows, the grain, re-render that as another image sequence will be another, let's say 4 hours, 3 hours, and another 10 gigs. Then I'll load that into Premiere again on top, and now, bam, I've got the film exists as a physical film. They're in sets. Oh my God, it took me 9 days of editing. Then I'll do the sound effects. Then I can watch the damn film.
And then,
and then stuff breaks, so you gotta fix it. Very irritating.
How do you, because I'm sure, depending, you have your own timeline, but like, as I think about, non-Trek stuff, if I'm writing something big, of course, and it's if you have the luxury, you'll do write the big thing, edit it, and then like I'll do like, and I'm gone for a day. And then I look at it again. So like, do you give yourself space before looking at the video again, or is it like I'm done, next phase, now watch the whole thing? Or do you ever give yourself space so you're like making sure you're not missing anything, or how since you're reviewing your review of your review, how do you make sure that other guy who is you did it right?
I mean, that is good to think of myself as different roles. Yeah, that is a fair thing. So you just got to do it as the stages. Um, I mean, I'm obviously watching each step, and I'm trusting the past me to assume that step's finished. But I also, because when you add that many layers of visual effects, of keying especially, stuff becomes non-real time. And because I've got 128 gigs of RAM on my machine, which is very, very high in a 4090, I've got a beef of a machine. But I'm using 4K raw footage, not, I mean, and that's the baseline. So it's 2 gigs for a clip is a lot to think about. So just previewing a 10 seconds might, what I know I can watch, the hair broke here. And a lot of these things you cannot really see until you render it because they're in motion or a frame. And so I will spend often 2 full working days, so 10 hours, 7 hours, whatever, on the fixes. But then you've got to do the first stage, the second stage. But by doing this, at least, it's a fiddly, but you have to do the whole thing again. You can do it in chunks, but there'll be stages. What's frustrating is that, and I said this a minute ago on my own boss kind of thing, because a lot of my productions are revolved around a reason to exist. Either has to come out in 6 days for Prodigy, has to come out for a Kickstarter, has to come out before this to get this press. For about 2 years now, 2.5 years, I have actively done where if a film comes out on this date for a reason, I need to do that. I will just not do any work, paid work, for the days until it's done. So I will sacrifice and I will hurt myself in the financially to finish it because the reason is important, the timing is important, and I was confident the fans would help with the Kickstarter to prove all those times. I had faith people would come and support, see the work in time. So it's a problem. There's been a problem several months where I've had 21 days this month I've not worked. Add that to the Kickstarter, because there's a reason and it sucks, but it has to come out. And that's why a lot of people obviously one film a year because they might be able to do 2 hours a day, 2 days a week. I will often have to do 10 hours, 3 days in a row. But guess what? You just did 3 weeks worth of someone else's work in 3 days because it needs to come out. And it's a problem, but also I take this very seriously. And we got the funding we need. We're doing some other stuff this year for optional things. We hope people are going to come in and support, which would be nice is to have, this is the call. But, hopefully it's appreciated. Hopefully, it sounds a bit sad there, doesn't it? But, hopefully
well, it's
people
passionate.
appreciate. Yeah, it is ridiculous and most people couldn't do it. But I'm in a position I can. I'd like to keep this train rolling as long as I can because you guys get to have high quality films regularly with that character based story so it feels real and also that what I've not seen before feel that isn't just, no offense to the past fan films of Yester productions, but a Connie on Mission 6. You're getting unique, weird things. This is a DS9 story, this is a Prodigy story, this is a Load X story. These are unique things you're not getting anywhere else. And luckily we got the Kickstarter funding. It's unfortunate so much of it went on debt that I'd accrued. So big number. Yeah, just cut over half of that to debt. But hey, debt's paid off. Woohoo! So yeah.
Well, no, it's obviously a mission of passion. Before
I think it
on,
matters. I think it matters.
Definitely. Before moving on, I have more of a writing background, so I know I don't know the technical stuff. But for someone who's watching this, going like, man, I don't know if I could do what he's doing, but I'm interested in maybe a baby version. What would be the technical stuff, like whether it's CPUs, camera types, sound programs? What would you sort of be like? What's your starter pack for someone who's like, I just want to maybe start something? What have you learned? Like, others brands are available. This is no sponsorship, but what have you found that kind of works for you?
Another great question in a roll. So first bit of advice I'd say, fan films you can make, knowing your limitations is so darn important because you can make a great story with nothing. And by nothing, I mean the fan stuff you already have. Let's be honest, we all have a tricolor or a phaser in our house as Trek fans. They might be less good, but we have one, right? And you can get a lower end 3 print for like $20. So You can do a lot with a little. Is if you start saying, and this is not a critique on other people, but if you're saying I'll do a full green screen production on this set I haven't got, with this uniform I haven't got, I got bad lighting, that sounds awful. There's a ceiling you can reach. So either actually plan to raise the ceiling with the simple tools, or do something within what you can do and be clever, because clever is important, right? It's how I do so much, I'd be clever. So you can make a film with the phone, just don't use the inbuilt app. Get the Blackmagic app, learn it, do it in camera log, control the frame rate, you can do manual focus on a phone, which instantly a normal phone app can't do. You can elevate the material, get a simple microphone that isn't then your phone, so that you can then, a simple boom to a mic you can connect to your phone via wireless. Bam, you've got better audio, right? Use the location you have locally. In England, we don't have that much, but in America, so many friends I know say, "Oh, I've got this lake house district about 10 miles away." I'm like, I would shoot there all the time because you have this is production value, right? Kozamart makes great uniforms. Just get them tailored after the fact. Put in shoulder pads, get them tweaked to your body. Now you've made a $27 costume cost 60 look as if it's 200, right? Don't use metal com badge. They look terrible. Get a resin one, not that hard to get, right? There are things you can do to give you big quality at relatively low cost. Camera wise, I mean, my goodness, phones feel like phones without planning and prep, I would say. But any Canon DSLR, I mean, my God, I got the first one that was video, the 5D Mark II. I use a 5D Mark III in my primary photo camera. They are cheap now. They are still amazing 1080p video. And I love how people who don't know as much say, oh, but it can do 4K. Yes, but a DSLR 1080p looks better than a phone 4K because the resolution matters not if the lens is bad and the sensor is bad. It will look and feel better. Yes, you have less pixels, but they'll look and feel better. So you can probably get a third hand DSLR with a basic lens. Okay, I'd get a better lens for like $350. Learn it. They're not that hard, and you can already have a better looking video than a phone in terms of what you can get potential wise, right? And that's cheap. Editing, I mean, everything I use is Adobe, but if you buy a Blackmagic camera, which are also relatively affordable, they really focus on value and quality and extras. You buy any Blackmagic cinema camera, you get the free professional version of the software, which can do everything, and it's always updated. It's incredible. Every year they're doing huge updates. So that £1,200 camera, that software is really valuable, and if you learn that, you're doing well. And that's a lot of tools that are just useful across the board. So yeah, it depends what you're going to go for, right? But I mean, you could absolutely buy, like I said, a cheap DSLR with a cheap lens, a cheap microphone. For me, cheap is like 30, 40, not 10, right? You have to be more than the budget. Cheap is 30 or 40. And shoot at a location, shoot at a quarry near you. Use nice, plan some nice angles, close ups, mids, wides. Try not to be too shaky. Have a decent script. Keep it 2 minutes. Film it. Ask me to do visual effects if you want. 2 shots. There you go, and you can make a film. And they are very doable. But I would say if you're thinking Star Trek fan film, any fan film, most people aren't me or Josh Irwin or Gary Davis or Ray Tessie who end up making many. Assume it's the one and only, right? Find the idea you've always wanted to tell or something that's really passionate for you and make that as the one, right? Put the work in the first time, especially in terms of kit, right? If you cheap out on kit the first time and end up making 2 or 3, you've cheaped out. If you say, oh, you know what? I've always wanted to make this film. It's going to be great. And, I will spend 1,000 to get basic kit. And it ends up going really well. I'll make a second film. Oh, I'll just make a quick second film. Oh, wow, the kit's there, right? You've improved it from the get. Which is why when
tattoo theory, it always starts with one.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Because once you see how easy the simple things can be. Does that answer your question? Sorry, there's a lot of facets for that.
No, and I think it all makes sense, especially when you're starting out and because you're just Googling. And then I think one thing that you do well, which I mean is sort of obvious and you may not even realize you're doing it, is that, when you're watching your films and you're watching the credits, because like I know one thing, I might not be a technical person, but I know my uniforms. And so I'm watching like, oh, that one was from Starbase. Oh, that one was from co-star Martin. Oh, that one was from Dennis Chu. And so it's like, so when someone's watching it going like, how'd they get that? Okay, stay for the credits, people. How, if you wanted everything they're using, I mean, this sounds dumb, but you use credits well. People can just watch your credits and, get a quarter of what the information they need, and then everything else
Everyone
just
deserves the credit.
contact Sam.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's very much a community of people that while I do 80% of everything, um, there are a few people out there like Adrian, like Nick, like Matt, like Brianna who does our art, who have dedicated at this point half a decade to this work, and we're all sort of evolving at the same not the same rate, but we're all pushing more, and so it's amazing. And so yeah, look at the credits, the people who have made it happen, and people that make costumes. Yeah, ask them. Scott McCarter, he makes great stuff. And yeah, I like investing in good stuff early on. We bought. I took an entire month's paycheck on a project. It took me 2 months of work to make the month's work. But and I spent all of it on tricorders and phasers from the best guy, and it was like just wiped off the face of the earth. Right, I earned minus that month, but because he was doing a thing, he had a thing, and we worked out a deal, and it helped him. So I just bought a big batch of stuff, right, including a Nemesis tricorder, which I don't like. I don't like it. It's a huge step back, in my opinion, and it's horrendously expensive. I would never get it normally, but this big, complicated, big buy and big help him, and that personal to me to help him. He's a famous guy. Whatever. But I invested early on, and now if a film calls for even the slightest moment mention of a new tricorder, I can bring that down, and now for what about 10 seconds on screen, you can see an Nemesis tricorder, and the budget pays for itself over time because now it exists. It's the hero prop. It's as good as the show. And now fans watch my films and say, "Of course he has that," because I invested. You're not really thinking ever, well, where's this or why is that? Of course, Sam has that. It's like, well, yeah, because I invested heavily, and thankfully, again, the Kickstarter people came in and supported. It won't last forever, but you got me out of debt, and it shows the investment's worth it because you guys want quality, and I think we provide most of that.
Speaking of quality, let's talk about crew review. And this is where we're going to go into some of my highlights from your films about
Beautiful,
my sort of favorite moments. Some of them are by episode, and some of them are just general vibes, man. All
beautiful.
right, so some of the episodes that sort of really got to me, not to say anything about the rest of them, but anyway, To Know Thine Enemy. I think it was a mix of this and it's going to sound really basic and stupid, but it's true. When I was watching it, I was like, huh. I was like seeing those uniforms because it's one of my favorite uniforms. And then also the visual you did with the Intrepid class ship, which again I know that's sort of your bread and butter, but like I'm like I can see the docking ports on this bad boy. And then also, and I know this isn't the only episode you featured it, but having the hollow ship from Insurrection, and this is going to portray my ignorance. Did you name it the USS Mimeo, or is that the actual? Okay,
Technically a Fanda from a previous Indiegogo, but yes.
okay. Well, in other words, like, and this is going to sound stupid. Great joke. It's a great joke calling it the USS Mimeo. I mean, come on, the hollow ship. What else would you name it?
That was Mark. Yeah.
Yeah. What are you gonna call it? The copier. But and also I thought the small touches because as I've been watching your videos, I mean, one should just watch it to enjoy it. But trying to look at the sort of technical stuff too. And so there's all the for the green screen. And I'm always wondering, like, what is CGI and what's real? And there's a part in the captain's ready room, and it's not the only episode, but that one in particular, I'm like, that's some real random blank Trek materials he's used for this ready room, which I would love to have. But anyway, but I just because I'm trying to sort of picture like there's the green screen, but must be like there's a desk or something because then you piled all this cool stuff for the ready room that you would have. But it just got to me. I was like, that's really cool. So I'm sorry I'm not telling you about the great story and everything, but it was just all this little bits that I was watching it that was like really.
No, that's why I adore
I'm enjoying it.
That's why I adore when fans want to chat to me about stuff. Every film has stories, and what you personally take from them is super fun. Like that's often I'll send review pre-release copies to some people, and they'll talk about the most insane small detail and not mention the story because they love the story. That's not the point. That they love this thing, So that's absolutely tremendous. Yeah, that was really special because that was another. We had to make it as a sponsored film, and also Nick was there and like limitations. But I was really pleased with that because I felt that was one of my truest. Oh, that's an episode of Star Trek, but mini.
Hmm.
Like it felt structured like an episode of Star Trek. I love the twist at the end. Spoilers, the twist. Holler ship, we had it built, and I was like, oh, fans deserve to see this again. And I really pushed my guys to build the interior. I worked to texture it. It was a big old render. And spoilers, when the holodeck sequence where we see the past people, that was obviously pushing CGI face replacement to get Dax and Bashir. But that one bit where you get the TOS sick bay, all those elements, right? That one, I'll say 14 seconds took me 5 days of work, 5 full working
Wow.
days for 15 seconds because it meant something and it was cool and it was fun and it was a world first. Imagine doing that and saying this is unpaid work. 5 days on 15 seconds of just lost income to make that. But it's so freaking impressive. And I love that. And I think you feel something seeing all that and it tells a story and it's really cool. It's really special. And it forced me to finish the sick bay and the, you know, forcing a set to be an earlier film or an emergency film, force it to be done for another film. So when I get to that, it's quicker to finish. Classic trope I'll do is like, I'll just use that instead because that I have to finish. Goddamn, or that I already have. Yeah, that was a really fun film, and it's really good because that was the second film we shot with Mercer. So that was released first, but acts as a setup for her setup, knowing what her setup was. So now
Hmm.
you know who she is before, which actually works better out of context because now you have a
Hmm.
context beyond the setup. Yeah, I made good use of that sort of mind bending logic.
Another one, and this may be an obvious one or one that maybe you get comments about, but Fight for the Future. I mean, and this I think, I've talked about visuals for the best one. This one is definitely the writing, um, because I mean, it's obvious that what that episode's about. Man, I wish they knew what they had. But I mean, I say that though, but that's, I mean, maybe it's a backhanded compliment, but I really did enjoy it because it's like this is sort of like you're getting to say what you want to say without saying it. And also just Prodigy has become, I should say always, it's only been a couple years old, but it's become one of my favorite series. And just so seeing the Protostar, which you've used it elsewhere, but at least in this specific one, it was very, very cool. And I mean, it's really about an appreciation of the Protostar, not a series. The Protostar, man, why'd they get rid of the Protostar? But anyway, but I really enjoyed that episode too.
Yeah, that was definitely it was better than the script because it didn't come together until after. I really pushed visual effects on that to kind of have, what did I know? I know that the production team obviously loved Voyager, so I included many Voyager things, Vidians and such. But each of those ships was a custom asset I had to do, so that was like 5 hours here, 7 hours there. I told Adrian, uh, could you possibly make me the ProStar briefing room by Thursday? It's Monday. Tell me no if you can't, please. So he did by using the Intrepid. Kit bashing is famous. I had the Prod uniform just finished like 6 months earlier, the Hero one, so that was good. That's a screen use Voyager one by my dad, who played the other chap, who I always like putting in because he wants to be in more things. And then yeah, that was I shot Nick remotely in his kitchen, and I'm really proud of that because his acting is fantastic there, and that was a great excuse to show him ahead of his own timeline. So I got to show his new ship first. So for the audience, that's really special, and do all that, and that just there's so much subtext in that scene that you don't know, which is just lovely. Really work with on that. And at the end, the same thing, the hall that was from Picard season 2. A guy said, Nick, could you build this in 3 days, please? And he did. I spent 13 hours texturing it, and that was really fun because I think I made this in 2 weeks, but Nim was here on the second week. So I wrote it saying, "Oh, I could include Nim. Sure, otherwise, wasn't going to be in it." I was like, "Oh, that's," and to have her in it. That's why her hair looks weird because she couldn't straighten it because real life. That's why she looks a bit different, but
Oh
it
yeah.
worked fine.
Yeah.
And so she did that. Hadn't read it on the day, did the speech, and that's such a tangibility to that speech at the end from all three of us. Nilsson, Marie, who's what 31 or 3,000 as the characters,
Yeah,
and she
yeah,
gives a
yeah.
speech to, and I think she nailed this. She's up for an award in this, as in I've submitted her for an award for this film because I think her performance here is exceptional. Where there's 3,000-year-old Lanthanite who knows everybody in the room since they were a cadet, the admirals, the ensigns, whatever, and when she says to them, "You will listen." You 85-year-old admiral who I've known who pranked people when they were 21, you feel, I think, you will listen. And she's a timid lady in real life, but to tell an audience of people, just beautiful performance across board in that. I think it really came together. So yeah, that one I think is really it makes you think. It's a very long end, I will agree, but it's a speech. But I think
Oh no, no,
luckily it
yeah.
keeps its pace reasonably
I mean, it's
well. And
one of
yeah,
those like sometimes you milking it is not a bad thing because we got things to say and they had things to say for a reason. So I
and there's a
enjoyed it.
and there's a flow to it that once you buy in on,
Hmm.
you're with the ride, right? Thank you. Yeah, that came out better than I thought, which is always good.
Another one, and again, there's so much I could say about it, but there was just one aspect of it that just tickled me in that I loved the acting, and the writing, and the tone was from The Great Experiment, where I mean you, because it's mostly you, but the actors and everyone else, but you sort of retcon Star Trek 3 into like what's the official Starfleet story about what happened that day? And I'm just watching, like, sort of laughing the whole time of like, yes, Admiral Kirk had a mission, and then the Excelsior was like, hey, we'll help out too. And I'm like, don't think that's how I remember that exactly, but how would you have filed that report? And so I really love it. I mean, there's so much more to that episode, but I just loved that because that tone just went on like the whole time. I'm like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, that was a fan sponsored one, which was super,
Mm-hmm.
super useful. And I had 3 weeks to write it and film it to get everyone involved. But because I ended up writing it, it was our first Wrath of Khan film. So I ended up spending more than whatever, on various additional things, on sets and CGI sets, whatever. I really pushed that. It was like double the length it should have taken to make because I really pushed that film visually to give the audience to test what a Wrath of Khan film would do, the interest. And it blew up. I mean, people love it. So it paid off. But I put so much work into that. That was really difficult. Every single interior was fresh because I didn't have any. Why would I have Wrath of Khan interiors? So, and I really, pushed it, just to get Excelsior concept ship Excelsior in and to get CGI Styles in. I thought you really can't talk about not show it. I mean, you can.
Yeah.
Sane people wouldn't do it. It's like, I can spend 26 hours and get that in. Yeah, yeah, right. And then the rendering, but it had such a texture. There's so much in that one, and that was really fun because, as you say, everyone knows the story. And unlike the Generations doc, where it's a different perspective on the truth, that was fun because and people complained that it's not what happened,
Mm.
but that meta narrative of the truth and the story. It's weird to actively lie to your audience, but there's a very important distinction here. Starfleet don't lie because they're good guys, right? So if you watch it, there's no actual lie. Everyone is saying things in a very specific way to say it. Everything's technically true, but not the way they're saying it. Even so much as my director, the Admiral character, I told him in various takes, you're not lying, you're picking every word carefully. And so add pauses here and I'm officially saying this. It's not a lie.
That's right. I
So
mean,
and that
Genesis is classified, so you
yeah,
gotta
because they
gotta.
shouldn't lie. This is the official
Yeah.
document, and Nielsen knows. She knows that happened, so she's skirting, and you can see she doesn't quite agree with some things. It's really subtle, but if you know that, because when you know the truth, which is why at the end I'm like, do I include Scotty? F it, I will. And the reason he's not saying anything, because I haven't got, I'm also not going to do
Yeah.
James Jones' voice, is because the in meta reason is because he's talking about the truth, so they can't include him, but they can include they included him, so we're going to see him without hearing him because everything he says is not official record. So there's a fun meta commentary to that as well. Yeah, that was really really fun to try and make it make sense, and I got a lot of blowback
Oh
on
no.
Scotty being a commander
Oh, I mean,
at the
okay, yeah,
end,
yeah.
and the admirals being the wrong admiral names. But it's funny because in my head, that's why you see the Star Trek 5 shuttle in this film because the whole universe exists. Because the film takes place after Star Trek 4 with the whale probe knowledge and all that stuff. So there's a different context. But so does 5 and 6 exist. So they can mention, things that aren't happened yet, um, construction of the show wise. So in my mind, all the admirals exist at the same time.
Yeah.
So he would go to several admirals. So you're mentioning one from 5, even though you saw one from 3, because they're different conversations. He's trying more avenues of conversation. To me, I thought that was another thing. I liked it that he called up 5 admirals or whatever and talked to them all separately without telling each other and see if one would bite. rather than just the one reason. I thought that was an people didn't like. They thought it wasn't true, but I liked that. And then Scott, if you watch Scotty's rank, he's a commander again in Star Trek
Yeah,
4, the entire film, and at the
they're
end of the
very
film.
inconsistent. So
No, no, he's consistent. He's a
yeah,
captain for basically
captain
three
of engineering.
hours
Yeah,
on
yeah,
Excelsior, and then he's commander every other like the rest of those things. Because I like to think that he said, so I was a commander for 2 hours. I basically mutinied Starfleet. I'm going to take a demotion now.
yeah.
Kirk demote me. Like I don't. I think he personally took the demotion because it made sense. Because 3 hours of a captain, who cares? Because I work really freaking hard for continuity. I check everything. So that was really like technical and hard one. But that was definitely a fun, very challenging, but very satisfying.
Two more I'll just quickly go through, in which I mean there's so many. Please everyone watch everything. Was the Fisari I'm probably saying it wrong. Fisarius
Yep,
encounter,
the
which I
4 day
think
one just
which
came
now
out.
makes even more knowing that it may or may not have been your first episode ever of Star Trek. But the
Yeah,
details, yeah. But the and I mean it's gonna sound dumb because of course you would do it. But the details of the first Federation ship, because obviously in my mind's eye, in the SD of the rerun era. I mean, not that I'm that old, but like in the 80s when they were rerunning it, and 90s, it looked like pretty what it looked like. And so now to see like, oh, you can actually, and I may be having this wrong, but at least the way I saw it is almost like each one was like a dome, and it's all, and it really sort of gives it life, other than just like it's a pretty ball we found in the 60s, and so that really gave it life. And then another one, Politics of Violence.
mm.
There was a lot. I mean, there's one, and maybe I haven't watched enough, but I think it was one of the few that I've ever seen you do the tactical view, and so it was just something like I've never seen them do that before, and so that was kind of interesting to
A
see
guy
that point of
offered, I
view.
said yes, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
love to get him back, but it was time consuming for him. But it was very nice to have. I gave him like, if you want to do it in a week, you've got a week. He did. Yeah, that added a lot. But yeah, because I don't tend to do stuff if the person, no, not this person in particular, but if they're unreliable, because then if I rely on something in the edit conceptually and they fall through, I don't like Nick Cook, my very good friend. He will often have an actor fall through the day of, and he'll cut the script up to affect that because it's hard to book things. Whereas for me, every line's important, and so taking out an important context or taking an important part of the scene would hurt so much. So I tend to underwrite, which seems ridiculous given all the stuff I've said in this film in this thing. Tend to underwrite what's possible so I know I can achieve it if I'm doing it. So that stuff I wouldn't tend to write because what if he can't do it? He's busy. Well, now it's just there's a pace for it. And that was a fun film for various reasons. We filmed that in Canada in Stuart's front room, which was great. His first film, and that was so fun because it's obviously Star Trek 6 prequel, but I love especially with like the Borg stuff in general films that I do, or Dominion War, having the people in the story say things that's true for them now, but we as the audience know 1, 2, 3 years later the S hits the F, and we know so their perspective is true now, but is going to be broken. So I love that film. Spoilers that it's House Gorkon that's doing it, and we're saying, oh, they're warlike, and there's this context that we know is wrong because our intelligence is just wrong about Gorkon's intent, but he's having to do
Mm-hmm.
politics to get Chancellor. And so it seems wrong if you're just a fan who's not thinking, but it's
It's
super
your mind
specifically,
almost substitutes Duras, like it's like, oh, it's the bad guy, and it's like,
yeah,
no, 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 listen what he
yeah,
said.
but it's super well constructed so that it fits in. I find maybe have to think harder to get that, but Trek's really out thinking and finding Easter eggs and details. So that was really fun. I also really wanted the idea of what is, these cloaking bird of praise. That's a brand spanking new thing at a certain point, and that's going to be very important, very impactful, and very dangerous. Borels are useful in certain situations. So the idea of going from Star Trek 3, where it was killed in no time, to this thing's a threat, you know, swapping that perspective like Viserys, right? Showing a bigger ship next to it makes it feel smaller because perspective and scale and time changes things. So I like having what's true, but reframing it to perspective. For example, if you had the E go back in time to NX-01 and then be like, you in the mind's eye think, oh, we can't detect pseudo-bound cloaking devices. E could go beep. Of course we can because we've detected more advanced cloaks. Like it would change the framework of how the narrative would be told logically just by shifting the paradigm. Has to make sense though, and then it gives you extra fun.
And then just to round out, just the general vibe stuff, that I just wrote down. Well, this is much just for you. I only watch purposefully. I only watched the trailer for Prodigy Reckoning because I want to take that whole series, and I think we're going to do it for a future chapter watch along because we usually do an hour, and
Oh,
I think there's 4 parts. Don't get, but I know altogether it's probably shorter than an hour, but that's long enough where it's so that's my plan. So I watched the trailer and I'm like, okay, it looks good, which I knew it would, but just to see
it
it.
didn't
So
look big and impressive. Hopefully, it's a lot of stuff in that
yeah,
trailer. It's
yeah,
very
yeah,
big.
yeah. Which it was almost like, is this an episode? No, it's a trailer. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so just wanted to let you know because I'm looking forward to that because again, big Prodigy fan. You already mentioned the music, but I did write down
Well,
music
and
is
if you're
always
moving on, I want to address that
please.
explicitly because I had someone say to me, "I'm going to wait until it all comes out." Don't think that way. So, Prodigy Reckoning is a distinct reaction to Prodigy, obviously.
Mhm.
It was written as one 20 episodic adventure with an overarching story, two 10 episode overarching stories, and four 5 episode overarching stories. So you can watch the five and it's a complete story with a cliffhanger for the next one, as in it is a 20 arc, and I wrote all 20, but
Mhm.
the five is still a condensed story. They're just chapters in a book. So watch the first five. It's a very fun binge. I was so thrilled when it came together. And we're going to re-release that before the next five as a 1 40-minute piece with a I'm director's cutting it, I'm changing it, I'm adding some stuff
Mhm.
because now you've seen it,
Always.
the spoilers don't matter when you haven't seen it, but do watch it because the cliffhangers work and I had a lot of confidence. I mean, I wish more people watched it because it's probably less people watched it, but I had so many people saying my best work because it builds and there's more and you sense more because I wrote like I knew the ending before I wrote the start, so it's properly thought through, right? And there's so many hints, and it's really special. It's going to be a very long piece when it comes out, and I'll do special releases as just the five, just the 10, just the 20, and it'll be big. But do watch the first five. Do let me know what you think, because and then if you want, if this is possible, watch each episode and talk about it because things get answered obviously in the next part. So
Mhm.
if that's possible, watch it, discuss, and the next
We
part.
have a running chat when we're watching something. We do
Okay,
Discord, YouTube, and then we have a
yeah.
running
Because I
chat
would
the
give
whole
yourself
time.
like
So
a few
yeah.
minutes to say and maybe guess where it's going because you can only ever watch a big episodic adventure once, and it is a big episodic adventure. And the cliffhangers that punch, hearing the reaction, it won't be quite as impactful if you just go to the next episode. So I would recommend because it's about 40 minutes the whole thing.
Mhm.
Pause and talk for a few minutes because it is worth it for the conversation. You'll capture that, and then the next five will be out this year. 6, 7, and 8 are fully done. 9 is mostly done. 10 is no green screen. Apart from that, it's good. But it's got new sets I haven't finished yet, and that was meant to come out early last year, but all the other things I'm reacting to the environment, the Kickstarter. So, but that is this year, 100%. And the episode 10 cliffhanger, I'm so excited for people to watch. It is so good. I think anyway.
No, well, not, and I'm looking forward to it.
Music, yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, no. You mentioned the music, but as it was one of my notes was the Prodigy and TOS music. I mean, all of it, but those are the ones that really hit. When those obviously it's during TOS episodes, based episodes, and Prodigy. Those are the ones that really hit me because I just like the music. But then even the TNG movie music, and all the ones you use, and then well, two more things. One, I mean, and this is obvious, but I'll state the obvious, is the ability of your films where you only maybe have 1 to 2 to 3 people, but there's still a sense of making it big. So like a character can be the captain of a galaxy class starship, but as we've mentioned before, you don't need to show ensign gates, because what do they do? They're just there. So we just zoom in. But I think, and maybe it's someone who's watching it and obviously appreciates your films, it's like, look, if you can't stand the conceit that there may be 1 or 2 people, then that's your problem. But I think it's very easy to go into the conceit that there's only 1 or 2 people in reality, but that there is a ship, there is a tactical officer behind, and you do. I mean, I'm not saying you don't do that because you'll either CGI or you'll do computerized, or you may have an actual voice, da da da. But there was always a sense of space of in a ship, whether it doesn't matter what class it is. I mean, yes, the one person in the one shuttle, yeah, that's one person one shuttle, but even if they're in a starship, I think the actors, I say you, but the actors and everyone
Yeah.
does a great job of making that feel real, quote unquote.
Yeah.
For some
I
reason I
feel
wrote
like
down A Mayor Without Mercy as an example, but anyway.
yeah, I feel like I should get sort of an award for how many ways can I explain and format a film with one actor and not feel like it.
Yeah.
And I keep doing it because again, necessity, right? I have them for 3 extra hours. Let's use the budget. And Marie will often say, "Or just hang out." I say, "I know what you mean, but we all love achieving and getting to act and tell stories. So let's use that time and budget, right? Like it's let's just film something else and have fun with it, right? It's a satisfying thing to do, even though it's very tiring. We go home late. Yeah, no, one person is, and that's a critique I get often. But this is another problem: is that when you have high end uniforms, often made for actors, I can't, I could, I shouldn't bring in Dave from down the road who doesn't fit in a thing and say, yes, Captain, just to be there. I don't have anybody I can bring in as random one liners. Because seriously, how unfair would that to be to do an open casting call for, I need Lady 30 to say, yes, sir, Warp Speed 2, come in, drive 2 hours, say those lines, that's it. It's not fair and it's not workable. And imagine if they cancel. Like, so I don't film things with those in mind because it's not achievable. It's not like in Arkansas with the those guys where they have like 50 people they can just call on, and they don't necessarily mind if uniforms aren't tailored. Don't mind if they don't fit the mold of an officer. I'm quite precise in that. We shouldn't take you out of it. That kind of fits you fine. Like, no, I want it to be more precise. So that limits me and what I can do on top of that. Or I'll try and, oh, Nim is going to come here. I'll add it to this and like try and whatever. But I'll do things to make it feel as if more's happening by doing a lot of exterior work, moving camera for interiors, and yeah, really playing with the audience's mindset to make you think more's happening when it really isn't. But the fact is, and I said this earlier, if each actor is hotel and travel to come here, right? Two actors double it. If you're doing a 2 day shoot because it's longer film, you're now doubling the hotel days, adding lunch, dinner, lunch, breakfast, and two travels. So you've over doubled the budget just to have two people for 2 days, right? Do you really want to spend $2,000 just to have two people for 2 days? Like I rarely do it now because I can't afford it personally. You know, but one person for 1 day is like this much, and then it's like four. You know what I mean? It escalates more people because they shouldn't be forced to pay their own hotel and not in this economy, hotel and travel. Come be in my film for 10 lines. Pay your own way. No,
Well,
obviously not. So
and this, I mean, you may not like this comparison, but like, because you're
yeah,
doing so much more. But like, if people enjoy the Canadian YouTuber pitch meeting, who's the same guy playing two roles, like, and then you're doing much bigger, but like, you're doing much bigger, like, and everyone loves that, and Ryan, and everyone appreciates that. So as I say, it's like if you're not going to buy the conceit, I can't help you. But
yeah.
don't, it's great.
An example of when things then go wrong. Ria, who played Catherine Archer, our Memory Alpha original documentarian and our computer voice, she moved 4.5 hours away. So then she was out of the question. So she gave me consent to clone her voice, her computer voice. And now her
Consent
computer
important.
voice
Yep. Yep.
is an AI computer voice, which I think feels very apt because she's so good. So now she can be in any film ever because I can use her infinitely. But she was an important character. She moved. She's out. That's it. So imagine writing a story and film 6 months apart, and that person's now 4 hours away and they can't travel. So more people problem. I've actually only one film ever I've actually totally been because the actor left, became unavailable, ruined it for everyone else. And it's like that cost us $600 to get what we got. And I can't salvage it because it's built around their relationship, around a story that was, and that's sad, but I can't salvage it. So more actors, more issues, whatever. And I'm very lucky. I mean, my cast is exceptional. So I'm keen to keep them and keep covering the hotels and travel to make them feel appreciated. Yeah, they'll work 10 hours if they pay nothing to come here. I think that's fair. But then things go wrong. So I'd rather do more films at slightly smaller scale with other things going big. And I've got many big films, but they're also 7 months' work and $3,000 to film. They're big because they're big, and I can't do many of them. I mean, hey, like I said, if I was getting 4,000 a month on Patreon, okay, we could do weekend, but fans make it possible, and I get lovely support, and I wouldn't be able to do what I do now.
Speaking of which, we'll now go to hailing frequencies. So you're talking about audience engagement. First, I'll ask this question, and then I'll want to get into your actual engagement with audiences. But for the first-time viewer, is there? is there a recommended viewing order? And I'll tell you my experience is I just hit that button on the YouTube channel and went to several places, and I'm like, there's a universe, and I will catch up on it as I go along because people are making references, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a real reference to a real episode or if they're just saying, which I've enjoyed. That's not a complaint, but for folks who maybe need a little more help in hand, is there a recommended viewing order for new audiences?
It's the exact same question of how do you watch Star Trek and how do you watch Star Wars? What's the viewing order? How do you watch Star Wars? What's the best order? Watch it chronologically, spoil Empire Strikes Back. Watch it production made and it looks cheaper. And then stuff happens, retcons it, right? These are questions that happen through all media. So I always recommend, just like with those productions, start with what was produced first. Because we evolved as a production, as a team, as we were going. So the visual effects scale is absurdly different between the first film and one of the bigger recent films. There's not even the stuff I was barely doing then, I'm doing in spades here. Wow, it's kind of absurd, right? So you see the evolution like TOS to Enterprise. You see the evolution of the makeup and the tech, right? That is worth something. But also because every film released, I've sort of structured why, okay, that comes next. What is it going to do instead? Therefore, I'm setting up stuff out of necessity versus out of organic, but therefore it works in its own right. So you're meeting Laura Reed in a way that makes sense in watch order compared to what's around it, right? And you're paying off stuff that has to be paid off earlier. That's a way of watching it. However, you can watch it in chronological order. There's playlists for each thing on my YouTube channel. Chronological, it's just as it was made and the real life of it. So there is no order, as in films just come and go, characters come and go, but then you see them know each other in the order they know each other. You see their lives evolve, and that's fun because then you see, oh, Keely gets more sad and Emma changes here, and you see that evolution, which is really satisfying. Or in character order, you just watch one character and see their evolution, and again, that being chronological. So as a first-time watcher, I say watch it in production order. Start with A Long Way From Home, and then once you watched a few, go back to Temporal Anomaly because it's older. That's its own sub. It's canon, but its own sub thing because it was made first. So start with A Long Way From Home, watch from there. That's all the Trek Shorts universe. But then if you really want to finish all those 40 films, go back and watch like just Emma's story and see how it works, if it makes sense in her order. And you'll see, because I think I released Emma's first filmed film sixth, right? But I knew that was happening, so I referenced her first and second films, first and second in the release order. So if you watch it in real order, you see the actual evolution of those events versus the how I had to make them play. So they are different in a good way. You can be like, don't do the thing. You did the thing in the release order, in the chronological order. But yeah, go release. If you it's like if you watch Enterprise and Discovery and TOS, what new kid is going to think TOS looks cool because you've broken them because Discovery is stupid and fancy. You've ruined the logical through line. You go TOS, TNG. Oh, TNG feels more advanced. Voyager. Oh, feels more advanced. Right. That is a progression.
And then how's been the actual engagement with the audience? Which, I mean, I know you've been doing this for years, but what is, and then you have a variety of platforms from which you hear them from. And I'm talking mostly positive, but to the degree you want to talk negative, feel free to.
Well, I don't delete comments. So free speech is important. If people don't like something, say it and I'll address it. But free speech is important.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so how does sort of audience feedback, good, bad, worked with you throughout the years?
Different. I mean, we're very lucky, and as I know a lot of other fan film creators, I'm shocked, and I'm forever shocked, that we get 85% positive comments, which is not the norm in fan film world. Often we get people saying, he's too fat, or his accent's bad, or that set looks crap. You'll get that because those things might be true from a certain point of view, whereas we curate, we do a lot more. So, those things aren't necessarily complaints you can do. So, yay. But then we get really niche comments, like, why is there only one person? That person looks too fake because the CGI character's this cutting edge tech. Like, I'm pushing the boundaries and it looks fine. Just, it's a CGI character, enjoy the fact that you're seeing, Dax looking pretty good. Like a 6 out of 10, happy with that, right? So that's good. View wise, it's been interesting. We went viral Temporal Anomaly back in the day. That was amazing. And then Long From Home came out again, blew up, fantastic. And for about 2 years, the rule, quote unquote, was 10,000 views in between 4, 5, and 6 days, or sorry, 5, 6, and 7 days, depending on who was in it, all those things, right? And that was every film for about 2 years, which was lovely. And they would go up and they, whatever. Um, and then YouTube changed their algorithm clearly, and many people felt this. And suddenly we weren't getting even 10,000 in a month for the last like 7 films. And more subscribers, more comments, but the algorithm isn't sharing it. We'd always get first day like 5,000 views, second day 4,000, and then depending on the second day went, it kept going up. But now we get the first day 4,000, and the second day gets like 1,000. So it doesn't push the algorithm, so we don't get the second day push, which tells it it's worth watching. So our subscribers aren't being told we're not getting the views anymore. But I know we were getting 10,000 minimum, and that was my pride point. 10,000 is going to be in 7 days, 6 days, 5 days. And our last 2 films, fair enough, they're in other things. There's a bit more muddled release because the Kickstarter. It's been a month and a half, and they're still like 6,000, which is disappointing to me because they're all worth watching. But if YouTube changes their algorithm, what can you do? If they're deciding it's not worth watching, irrespective of the audience, what can you do? So it is disheartening because we wanted to grow the channel, but the thing that was working for 3 years flawlessly every single time, and often I think one of our films we got 10,000 in 2 days. I think it happened more than once because it shared, like it got reaction. Not happening now. So hopefully it'll change again. I don't know, but YouTube changes. It is a shame because they're being made to be watched, not being made for my ego.
As corny as it sounds, guys, click subscribe and hit that bell. There's a reason why we say it. I say we. I don't have a YouTube channel, but it's why the reason why creators say it. It's not just because Anyway, now one thing you've had a lot of experience with, I mean, you've mentioned already, is sort of the crowdfunding platforms. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Patreon's not in this, but I'm including Patreon, even though it's somewhat different. What would be your pluses and minuses? And again, your own experience, but again, for someone who's looking at this, going like, what do I do? What do I play with? What's been your experience with and any other ones I didn't mention, but with your various platforms? Because you're primarily YouTube as far as what people can
Yeah,
easily access, right?
yeah.
But as far as those other platforms, what
So
are your lessons learned?
I've been in this so long. I was the second ever Star Trek crowdfunder. Isn't that surreal? And then Renegades was just after me. I'd got enough to film it, but not to produce it. That's why it took many years because it was like I bought the stuff I had to buy, and then I also had to buy more. Oh no, whatever. So Kickstarter already started. Then Indiegogo became the platform of choice for everybody because their fees were lower and you didn't have to get 100% because never a guaranteed thing. But then Indiegogo got bought out last year and then revamped their platform 2 weeks before we were set to go live, and then without telling us, so I did through the entire approval process twice. That they now no longer do IP content on their platform. So we were basically ready to go, and they said, after 2 weeks of checking it, you're IP based, so you can't go. It's like,
Goodness.
should have told me that in one day, but okay. So then we had to delay until February and move to Kickstarter, which every graphic had to be remade slightly. That took about 6 days of full time work to readjust it. And even Kickstarter emailed me, all respect to them, saying, "You mentioned Indiegogo in your pitch video. Take it out." I know I did. That was the plan. I can't get Emma in to reshoot saying Indiegogo. So I told them, I'm really sorry. I can't change that. Luckily, I said, Nim was here to film. So I said, can we please reshoot the Kickstarter video? I just had her redo Emma's bits in her own way, which then took more days. So, I mean, imagine again another 6 days of full time work out of income, just in zero that week, just to reset up the platform for Kickstarter to raise money. Luckily, we did it, but there are struggles with this to whatever, and the weight was heavy, we did it. But Kickstarter, once you get it going, great system. The add-on features great, very user friendly, very good platform. But 100% or nothing, so always under. In reality, my goal is 30,000, but the minimum I do like 12 because that would just cover the most debtiest of debt. But really, that was just like I'm back to almost zero, but not really, like ground zero. Luckily, I got past 2 stretch goals in the last 2 days, which meant I can actually think forward, not just finish the back. But really, it was 30K was the goal. So always under ask and pay. If you want to go crowdfunding, I do recommend it, but you can't crowdfund as random Joe blogs to buy the camera I talked about earlier and the uniforms because you have to get past a lot of humps to even get any funding. And you have to
Spend
prove
money to make money.
Well, yes, but you also have to prove you can make it. I've seen many people just say they'll make something. Now, in the old days, you could say anything on Kickstarter and get some money and make it at any quality because the fact you're doing it was cool. But the bar is so middle high as a standard that just saying it and then self funding your own kit, you're not going to get it. And should people have to fund you to buy a full camera setup before you even get to the filmmaking? Prove you can make a film first, make a minute mini short, showing the level you can do, and use that to raise the money because now you're proving. Then the story comes next, right? Patreon's very important. I mean, I would have stopped 3 years ago without Patreon. End of story,
Oh.
right? Because I couldn't fund what I was doing just on the monthly basis like that. And if it hadn't increased over the last 3 years a bit, again, I might have stopped last year because my outgoings are so high. Blah blah blah. Thank goodness I'm still here, right? Thank you to the fans because I'm putting the time in. But as I've said various times, if I'm not working for a week, another week, could you not work for 2 weeks every 2 months? It's kind of difficult, right? So fans make it possible, but I'd like to think I'm the most over-delivered fan film maker ever. The first campaign I pitched 5 films. None have come out, all are filmed, but they're all 30, 40-minute films. The second campaign, I didn't pitch any films. I just talked about films we were already doing because at that point I was already self-funding filming. But I've released 44 films in 4.5 years, which beats anybody out there at the level I'm doing by a margin. So, and you backers have not funded like actively almost any of them because I've done them as extra. So I funded them, right? Now, luckily, I funded stuff that cost money and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, over delivered. And that's great because they're character pieces and people like the characters. But yeah, Patreon's good, but you really got to be delivering regular content for that. I would do, okay, so if you were like, this is a bit of a serious answer. If you were like, I want to start making fan films, I've got a camera, it's mid, I've got a green screen or a blank wall, it's mid, but I want to make something for $150 a time. Cool. Do like an office film. You're at a star base. You commission a couple of space shots of the star base. It's your office. You buy or 3D print. The desk chair thing, the desk computer, and you frame it around a day of life of a desk job at Starbase 7 doing political manufacturings with the Andorians. Like the concept is simple, and then you could do it as a regular thing that's simple. There are ways of doing fan films where the story matters in a simple way, and then maybe Patreon to keep those coming, whatever. Stuff like that, or Kickstarter for like $2,000 to try and do something big, but you got to prove you can do it first, right? You got to have the chicken before you can promise the egg, unfortunately.
And this is your chance to talk about all the things that you want our audience to know about. So, what are all the platforms, and what are all the places they should click on? And we'll have it in the video description. But what do folks want you to what do you want folks want to take away from this as they've heard all this great content from you?
That support Patreon if you can, because any amount every month is a group platform for a reason. The more we get, the longer we can do. And as you've got from this conversation, we have 20 plus fully filmed, unedited films that just need to be edited with stories that are before, after, during, well before, well after. Some people's dads. You know, this is a long journey that we'll be having films released for years, and the amount of support we get on a monthly basis and by the the Kickstarters, that determines how quick we make it. We've got 25 films in the buffer. We don't want to wait until 2045 to release them because you're doing one a year, right? We want to keep 4, 5, 6 out a year and film new ones before the actors get too old, look too different. That's important to us. So keep supporting us we can. And then, oh no, we have 6 films to release until 2040. What a shame. That's amazing. And wow, Emma looks great for 45. Yeah, we filmed it in 2023. Yeah, like that's going to be a thing, right? That's going to be very unique among us. But Twitter, Trek Shorts, Facebook, Trek Shorts, Patreon, Trek Shorts, and that's great. You can join as a free member and get exclusive updates. Paid, get the most exclusive updates. Always pre-release links to everything. We love that. And we love getting the reaction of backers, but free also. So that is the best regular update platform. Patreon just joins free, but $1 gets the exclusive updates and the perks as well. My personal Facebook is mine, but you're welcome to message me personally. I just won't friend you unless I know you'll work with you because my personal one, but Trek Shorts, absolutely fine. Bluesky, no. Instagram, no. Follow me on those if you want. Instagram, I post the occasional thing, but mostly focus on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube, Trek Shorts, which is actually SGU Distant Hope because YouTube's fickle at changing names, but Trek Shorts on YouTube, find the channel. The Trek Yards, of course, that's my day job. Follow that. And I will tease for the last 3 weeks, as of recording this on the 9th of July. Yeah. I've been pretty much 6 to 11 hours a day working on my hashtag Save Stargate fan film. So it's another goddamn save film. Luckily, I managed to raise about 2 grand after it's another 1,000 to finish it, but to make that in this quick time. And it's going to be the world's biggest Stargate fan film with my personal record for space effect shots in any film released, the personal record for interiors for any film released, and it's going to be if you're a Stargate fan, you've never seen anything even close to this, and it will make you think, it will make you feel, and hopefully, if it gets really strong audience reaction, unlike Prodigy, where niche fan base, Stargate's a big fan base. We want to set seen by Amazon, seen by MGM. If that gets 50,000, 80,000, 100,000, it proves to Amazon there's an interest. So that when that comes out, hopefully in July, but it's giant filming if I get the rest of the funding. If it comes out, be there, search it on the platforms, new Stargate fan film, share it, talk about it, comment on it, get that trendy on social medias, because if that gets views, that might just have MGM think twice. I'm putting so much work into it. So if you can help just by sharing and whatever, that'd be great. But yeah, it'll be if you like Stargate, you're in for an absolute treat.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thanks for joining us. And with that,
Thank you.
Computer Arch in program.